Hi, and welcome back to the final segment of this free-for-all Friday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. The number to call, play a couple of sound bites, get right back to phone calls, 888-589-8840. Here is Barack Obama, television interview. I believe this is with Univision. And he's being asked about Obamacare. And listen to what President Obama says about his signature legislative project.
I am absolutely confident that you will see millions of people benefiting from this law. It doesn't mean that at some point there won't be some additional problems or improvements that we can make. It doesn't.
Do you have anything in mind in the near future? Do
you know, at this point, I think actually it is working the way it should. But what we need to do is after the first year, we'll evaluate what the pool looks like. Can we make sure that we're keeping the premiums low?
Now, the thing I want you to observe there, number one, he says it's working the way it should. And then he says at the end of that soundbite, we got to keep premiums low. Now, this is where President Obama is trying to fool the American people, because premiums is not the only cost of health care. And one of the ways they have kept the premiums low is by jacking up the deductibles and jacking up the copays. So people look at the premiums and say, oh, great, with the subsidy, my premium is such and such. Then they wind up having to use the thing, and they realize the deductibles may be up to $5,000 or $6,000 for an individual, up to $12,000 as a family, and the copays, especially for prescription drugs, are right off the charts. Here is some polling data about how Americans feel about Obamacare. So Obama's saying, look, it's working like it should. Let's see, 49% of the American people say they are pessimistic about Obamacare. 45% of them say that they are scared. They are frightened about what Obamacare means for the country, and 43% of them are angry. Now, you look at what's going on in the economy. We had some results, jobs, and all that kind of stuff. The number of jobs that were created is 175,000. That just keeps up with the population. We're just treading water at that. So don't let President Obama lie to you. He'll be out there telling you about all these 175,000 jobs that were created. That's just enough to stay even. That's just enough to keep from losing ground. Meanwhile, the number of women that are now unemployed went up 36,000 in the month. The number of unemployed went up 223,000. These are the people that don't have a job but are actively seeking one. The number of people that don't have a job but they're looking for work, that number went up 223,000 last month, only 175,000 jobs. Teen unemployment's 21.4%. Black teen unemployment, 32.4%. You know, think about those teenage years. This is when you start learning work skills. You learn to be punctual. You learn to be on time. You learn how to take directions. If you learn how to work hard, you learn how to provide customer service. You learn how to take orders. You learn how to work with all the things that you need to build a career. That's where you learn in your teenage years, starting with some of these jobs, and the jobs just aren't there. Unemployment rate, 21.4% among teens, 32.5% among black teens, and that's just criminal. And the average number of hours that worked last month fell, and the reason they fell is because of Obamacare. So it's not just the fact that the jobs are going away or not being created, but the number of hours that people are working is dropping. Let's see, the Labor Department reported that the average number of hours worked last month fell for the month, down 1.5% since last year. Production and non-supervisory employees averaging just 33.3 hours a week. And it talks about the specific industries where employment is way down. Retail and trade and leisure and hospitality both saw average hours worked fall below 30 hours a week. Last year, retail trade hours were just over 30 hours a week. Last month, averaged 29 hours. In early February, the CBO estimated that the impact of Obamacare's health insurance mandate would lead to a decline in average hours worked over the next decade that would amount to about 2.5 million full-time jobs. Now that number, they said it's going to fall. The average hours worked is going to fall by 1.5 to 2% by 2024, 10 years out. 10 years from now, it dropped by 1.5% in the last year. In 1 year, it dropped by the amount that they were projecting was going to fall over the course of an entire decade. So that number that Obamacare is going to lead to a loss of 2.5 million jobs, that may be an overly optimistic scenario. And here is the folks on Morning Joe, clip number 10. These are a bunch of libs, and they are talking about Obamacare, and it is so bad they can't find any way. I mean, listen to Joe Scarborough, ask them to defend this thing, and what happens? Let's listen.
A new study finds the president's health care law is failing to reach the very people the law was designed to help, the uninsured. According to the survey, just 27% of the people who have signed up for Obamacare through exchanges didn't have prior coverage. And with the March 31st deadline to sign up approaching, the survey finds 56% of the uninsured haven't even begun shopping for health insurance. Yesterday, we learned the White House was also delaying the law for individuals who have policies that don't meet the Obamacare guidelines. That 2-year grace period impacts 1.5 million people, and President Obama recently announced 4 million people have signed up for Obamacare. It's not clear how many already had an insurance plan, but it's still well short of their goal of signing up 7 million people by the end of this month.
Guys, anybody?
It'll help,
anybody?
please.
There's still a chance for them to close strong here in this last deadline, but most of the statistics are not great, and most of the individual stories are not great. They've got to get more momentum.
They need young people.
They got to get people invested so there's a surge at the end.
So that's just bad news everywhere you look. 90% of the uninsured, remember this is all for them. This is all for the uninsured. 90% of them have not signed up for Obamacare. 50% of them haven't even looked at the website, haven't even explored it. And the reason they're not signing up is it's just too expensive. They cannot afford it. 73% of the people that signed up for Obamacare in February already had insurance. So it's only reaching 27% of the people that signed up didn't previously have insurance. And of that number, a lot of them have not even paid the first or second month's insurance. So we really don't have any reason to think that they are actually insured. So the reality is even liberals are contradicting President Obama. Obamacare is not working like it should. Let's go to Pat in Texas. Pat, welcome to Focal Point. Welcome, Pat. What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment about the Arizona thing and where the governor vetoed that religious liberty bill.
Yes.
And I tell you what, we need to start using our dollars and our influence to do what's right. And I know you're a San Francisco 49er fan, but you need to stop watching football. We all need to stop watching football and make the NFL pay for what they're doing. They're taking a stand that is against America, against Christians. So we need to use our influence and our dollars and stop supporting corporations and companies and businesses that are against biblical principles and against conservative values.
Well, and what Pat is talking about, and he's dead right about this, the NFL put a lot of pressure on Jan Brewer to veto this bill. I mean, the NFL now has suddenly, with this defensive end from Missouri coming out as gay, might be drafted, might be the first openly gay player in the NFL. The NFL cannot say enough wonderful things about him. They can't say enough wonderful things about homosexuality. So they become champions. They become some of the leading advocates for sodomy in the entire United States of America. And I will guarantee you sodomy is not a masculine value. NFL is all about masculinity. That is not what homosexuality is all about. All right, Pat. Listen, I don't know if I can join you in your boycott of the NFL, but Pat is certainly correct. We got an NFL right now that is out of control, and they have planted their feet firmly on the side of the homosexual lobby. All right, let's go to David in Memphis, Tennessee. David, welcome. What's on your mind? David, are you with me?
Hi, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go right ahead.
I want to thank you for all the work that you do, and God bless you.
Thank you very
I
much.
feel very, very frustrated these days about not really being able to do much of anything against our government, our bankruptcy of leadership. And I thought, is there any way that AFA could somehow organize, like you talk about the pastors, the governors, in getting the grassroots people together somehow so we can protest or do what we need to do to get this administration out of office?
Well, David, I don't know there's much chance of getting a change in the occupant in office before the next election in 2016. Although we had a caller last hour, Hector, talking about we can pray. I mean, God is the one who sets up kings and removes kings, so this is not beyond the reach of God. I think it may be in God's wisdom and God's economy. God is going to let us suffer with the leader that we have chosen. I mean, one of the principles you see in Scripture, we always get the leadership we deserve. So in some way or another, we're getting the leadership in this administration that we've chosen, that we deserve, that we voted for. And, maybe God is just going to let us choke on it so that we'll be motivated to do something about it. Now, here's what I want to say, David. I think the thing where we ought to focus our attention right now is on the fact that we are in a primary election season, and we've got a general election coming up in November. And we've got this AFA Action Voter Guide. You live in Tennessee. You're going to have representatives at the state level. You're going to have congressmen. You have one congressman that represents you, 2 senators from the state of Tennessee. And here's an opportunity when this voter guide comes out, when you get close to your primary election in Tennessee, go to afaaction.net and use that voter guide to give you the information you need to be able to cast your vote for candidates who are going to reflect your values when they get to the State House in Tennessee and get to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. That's something concrete. Get your friends to go to that website, get them to use it, get them to share it with others, download the app when it's available, take that with you, go right into the voting booth and vote for candidates who are going to stand for your values. Well, there's a blessing for your weekend. May the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times in every way. The Lord be with you all. You are now free to move about the weekend. God bless you. See you Monday.